Hey everyone, I'm Daniell, and this is my quantum physics project from Mr. Campbell's class in 5th period. This project was supposed to be an analogy between the book he read us called Quantum Physics for Babies and our own thing. That we use 6 vocabulary words from that book and our own words and our own thing, And so for mine, I was gonna do Minecraft, but I decided to do Breaking Bad instead because it's cooler and it also has a chemistry teacher in it. So, boom. Excuse me. And yeah, it's about a chemistry teacher who decides to say like, hey, I want to have lung cancer, so he gets lung cancer, and then he is just like, wow, this is really expensive, so he starts making meth and quits his job to make meth, and then he goes to his former student and say, hey, I know you make meth, and so like, hey, I need to pay for my medical bills and for my son's college, and I want to get a sick new car. And so he does. And they start making meth, and that's the ground state. That's the lowest energy state of an atom, and that's when the main character Walter and his sidekick Jesse start making meth, and it's the purest form of meth Albuquerque, New Mexico has seen ever. That's where Mr. Campbell was born too. What a coincidence. It's chemistry in Albuquerque. Hand in hand. That's I need to scroll down a bit, sorry. And so yeah, that's when there's no competition, and then their lawyer Saul Goodman calls them up and is just like, hey, I got a connection for you. I think I think you'll like this. And so that's when they move on to the excited state. That's the highest. That's any higher level than the energy level than the ground state. And this guy, they find this guy. His name is Gus Fring, and he's the owner of a Mexican restaurant called Los Polos Ramos, and that's spread throughout the entirety of not the entirety, but like the southern western United States. And it just so happens that the biggest Mexican restaurant chain also has the biggest meth business underground in it. And like, ooh, what a coincidence, man. And yeah, hold on. And they're just like, hey, you and us will work together and we'll make the biggest excited state of meth, pure meth you've ever seen. And they get a bunch of money for it. And so of course Jesse's the little guinea pig, so he's going back to the ground state. And of course, while he's going back to the ground state, like any normal particle would, it'll emit light, and then it's giving away electrons. And so while he's this is represented in Breaking Bad when Jesse goes to get some shoplifters and goes to crack them down for shoplifting and stealing their meth, and they're a bunch of really crackheads. Whoa, really? No way. Yeah, and the lady in there is a couple. The lady crushes the man's head, her husband's head, with an ATM because they were trying to get it open, and it turns out if you crush a man's head with the ATM, all the money will come out. So yeah, there you go. And then Jesse shoots the woman because you gotta crack him down, man. It's just how life works. When you're done, you're done. I'm sorry, but I shouldn't have said that. But it's all right. It's all right. Okay. Then it emits light because there's a rumor that spreads that Jesse actually killed the man's head. that he crushed his head with the ATM. And like that's not true. Jesse doesn't like that. Like his friends Sticky Pete and Badger were just like, hey, did you actually do that? And it's just like, no. And they're just like, oh, and the light emission stops. But the light emission did spread, like through the rumors spread throughout like the entirety of Albuquerque. So the underground Albuquerque, obviously not like, oh man, hey, this guy, hey DEA, he killed a man. So yeah, it's just like, you know what I'm saying. And for 4, we got energy, and like that's different types of energy. You got positive energy, you got negative energy, and like use this example for Gus Fring, and like for positive energy, you got more protons. For negative energy, you got more electrons, and yeah. And so for Gus Fring, you got good, wholesome freaking burritos and tacos and Los Palos Ramosos, and that's his restaurantos. And then you got his underground meth business, which is like bad and negative and awful. And that's how we go on to our next topic, electrons. And that's where like the negative particles, they don't have any mass. It's sort of like Jesse's girlfriend in season 2. And her name is her name is Jane, and that's where like she has black hair. Like, come on. She's toxic. If you haven't figured out if you have black hair, and if you haven't figured out you're toxic, what are you doing with it? Like come on. Okay. Yeah. And so like she's really negative, and she's not very whole. She doesn't hold anything. Like she's not weighing anything. And so sort of like an electron. Like, and once Jesse gets rid of her, not spoiling anything, but once Jesse gets rid of her, he's whole again because he's got his 2 awesome pals, Stinky Pete and Badger, and they're like the wholesome trio. Hooray. Boom. Trio. And then, yeah, then we go to the last 6th one, and it's called energy levels, and that's like it's the different rings around the nucleus. The more the rings, the bigger the rings, bigger the big toes, big socks. Bigger the rings, bigger the energy level. You got the small one, the ground level. You got the excited state. So for the ground level one, you got you got Jesse. For the middle one, you got Walter White and Saul Goodman. And for the one after that, which is the biggest one that I could think of, you got Gus Fring, and then Mike, the CIA agent there. Yeah. Let's go. Good for you. Goodbye. And have a blessed day. That's a minute less than my last one. We're doing good. We're